Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be interviewing Nardi, successful Fiverr freelancer slash YouTuber who's made over 6 figures from selling his copywriting services to businesses across the globe, and most recently crossed the 100,000 subscriber mark on his YouTube channel, where he teaches people how to become a copywriter and current side hustles which are well worth knowing. And we're going to be discussing everything from how he got started on Fiverr to where he is now, his whole YouTubing journey, including at what stage he got his first sponsorship at, and his advice on getting started as a freelancer, plus a whole load more. Now, this kind of video style could possibly become a regular thing on my channel if it turns out to be something that you guys enjoy and get value from. So don't forget to let me know down in the comments if we should start doing these kinds of videos on a regular basis, alright? But for now, let's get into it. Again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day for this.
Yeah.
I know you didn't have to, but generally I wanted to put this together purely for myself because I'm curious about different things, but also for a ton of other people out there who will hopefully benefit from this as well and some of the answers that you're going to be given. So basically, well, I would ask you to introduce yourself, because what I know about you so far is obviously freelancing, Fiverr professional, gone YouTuber, and yeah, it seems to be working out really well for you at the moment.
Yeah. So I've been copywriting on Fiverr for like the last 4 years. It's been up until like 3 weeks ago, my side hustle. Same with YouTube. I've been in sales, tech sales. Okay. And I just quit. So now I'm fully YouTuber, Fiverr freelancer. So yeah, copyrighted on Fiverr for about 4 years. Kind of got into that out of, you know, the feeling that I wanted to make some extra money. And I dabbled in a bunch of different side hustles over the years, and copywriting kind of was very much an easy transition from a lot of the stuff you would do as an account executive or sales professional in tech. Like, you're sending a lot of emails, prospecting, cold calling, stuff like that. So it was a pretty smooth transition. And over the years, I've been building up that business. It had been going really well. And I kind of came to this inflection point where I was like, you know what, I've always been interested in YouTube. Fiverr's really changed my life, even just as a side hustle, making a couple extra grand per month. So I started making videos about it. And, you know, here we are, I think 3 years into YouTube later.
Man. And so with Fiverr, so I guess Fiverr is going to be the best starting point, and then we're hit onto YouTube as it sort of came later for you as well. But your start on Fiverr, how did you even know about Fiverr in the first place? Because for example, myself, I didn't know about Fiverr until a friend kind of introduced me to it.
Yeah, so I kind of found out about Fiverr in a roundabout way. I was at a phase in my life where I was trying to figure out how to make money writing, not necessarily copywriting, just writing in general. It's something I was interested in. I think I came across like a Reddit post, and these guys were talking about how much money they were making doing this thing called copywriting on a site called Fiverr. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I really thought nothing of it because I thought the term Fiverr was just like slang on Reddit for like making a Fiverr, like $5 or whatever. And eventually I came around to like actually looking into it, and it's a site, and then there's Upwork, and there's all this stuff, and just kind of by chance. Yeah. Nobody had told me about it, because even to this day, a lot of the people I know in real life never heard of it.
Yeah, same situation. And I think, again, like when we talk about YouTube, Fiverr is still a very small niche, I find.
Tiny,
you know?
Yeah.
It's not many people know about this whole kind of freelancing, say, community and platforms. But then, so you started on Fiverr, and you were still doing your full-time job at that stage as well?
Yeah. For a while, actually, yeah.
And then at what stage did you decide to completely transition to Fiverr? Like, okay, quit my day job, and okay, Fiverr's going to be how I'm making my money from now on.
So I actually never came to that point. So I just quit the 9-to-5 like 3 weeks ago, and I'd been doing Fiverr for about 4 years, right? In tandem, just as like a side hustle. I would probably dedicate like, I don't know, in the early days more time, but probably an average of like 4 hours per week to copywriting, and it was like a good balance. So I never really went down the path of, oh, I'm going to make Fiverr my full time. I had thought about it, but I kind of built my business in such a way where I was constantly playing around with raising my prices and tweaking my services to the point where I felt I was getting the best ROI for my time. And for me, you know, exploring Fiverr and YouTube, all this creative type of entrepreneurship stuff, I never wanted one thing to become like a full-time job. Like I didn't want to be doing Fiverr 10 hours a day. Yep. So that's how I did it. But there were points in time, like between jobs over the years, where I was like, maybe I take Fiverr full time. You know, it's definitely possible. It would just, you know, take a little bit more prospecting or tweak my prices a little bit and things like that. But, you know, for me, it never was a full-time thing.
Jesus. Okay. And literally, just to put that into perspective for people like listening right now, you've got a ton of gigs on Fiverr. Yeah. You're getting tons of orders. Yeah. You are consistently uploading to YouTube.
Yep.
And you quit your full-time job 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
Like
it was a lot of, like, I'll be like to be frank, like it was a grind, like working 9 to 5 and then like doing Fiverr and YouTube. Even if Fiverr was only a handful of hours per week in the evenings or on my weekends, it was a grind. Now I'll probably be ramping up YouTube and Fiverr that I have more free time. But yeah, that was the deal for 3 years or 4 years.
Wow. Matt, but even like that, you say like ramping up YouTube, like, dude, you literally post pretty much every 3 or 4 days. Like,
yeah. Oh, I mean, like quality of the videos and editing and stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I assumed that you'd already kind of quit your full-time job a while ago.
No,
and this was pretty much it.
Yeah. No, I hadn't. So I recently, like a year into the pandemic, I bought a house, like my first ever like 4-wall home. Like I had lived in condos before, and I needed to keep all 3 because I was renovating and it was expensive. So I was like, I'm going to do as much work as many hours, as many days of the week as I can for as long as I can. And then, you know, about a month ago, I had an opportunity to, you know, leave the rat race, and YouTube is big enough, Fiverr is big enough to support me. And that's what I'm doing.
Wow. Okay. And what keeps you just in this kind of copywriting niche at the moment? Have you thought about expanding out? So, for example, like I do spokesperson gigs, and it's honestly, it's fantastic. So I've been doing it now for like 2 years, and yeah, quite literally, I've managed to kind of go full time on Fiverr, more or less from the start. Like it was making me a decent amount of money.
Sure.
So yeah, have you thought about kind of doing anything else, like expanding outside of the copywriting? Because you're on YouTube anyway.
Yeah, I do. So I have one gig. It's pretty new where I do YouTube consulting. It's something I'm dabbling with. Like I had done consulting gigs in the past where you're trading, you know, time for money. And it has been a little difficult on Fiverr up until now. Actually, they just rolled out a feature where you can like sync up your calendar and people can book times and all that.
Yeah.
But in the past, you would basically say, okay, I charge $150 per hour, let's say. Then I would send them a Zoom link, and there's no like deliverable. So I'd be like recording the meeting, and then that's like the proof that the work was done. And then like you run the risk of someone being like, oh, I didn't get as much value as I thought I was going to get. And like, to me, I'm very upfront where like, not that I don't care, but like you get what you get. You're paying for an hour of time. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk with. But some people have unrealistic expectations, and they expect me in an hour to give them the recipe to $1 million. Like, come on, you know what I mean? I'd be charging you $1 million an hour if I could just, you know, in an hour give you the keys to, you know, paradise. But yeah, so I have one consulting gig for YouTube, and about a year ago I put out another one where similar type of gig where it's not live, but I do website reviews from the lens of a sales and marketing perspective. So people trying to sell stuff online or generate leads from a website, I'll review it and record myself my first impression of the site and give advice on where to tweak. So I've dabbled with things like that. But again, so I'm very cautious. So like spokesperson, I have a friend of, I think you're familiar with him, Josh Fox.
Yeah.
Super cool guy. He does spokesperson videos as well. Super lucrative from what I've heard. But for me, I didn't want to like dilute my presence on YouTube, because like I know Josh, he's got a YouTube channel as well, but he's very much like his business is booming, right? And
yeah,
you know, he's fine with it, but he appears on so many channels on the internet, and like I just want to be on like my channel or like interviews like this. So I didn't do that, although like I have all the gear to do it, right? Like you're making YouTube videos. The other one that I thought about was like lead generation, but you know, then again, I don't want to sign myself up to be like a per hire sales rep, because you know, I've done that in my career, which I just quit, and I don't want to start another career on Fiverr doing the same thing. So copywriting just works really well. Consulting works really well. But yeah, I'm not opposed to starting, you know, down a new path. It's just I'm really focused on keeping the amount of time I have allocated every week to Fiverr the same, so that I can grow other stuff. Like I have the newsletter or YouTube. Just like I'm kind of like restless in that I want to do a lot of stuff, and I don't want to like laser focus on one, although that probably would be a good idea for, you know, faster growth. But
yeah, no, exactly. And actually, like you just mentioned, the consulting gig. So I've seen even a couple of spokespeople are doing this as well, like consulting on their videos and that kind of stuff, like just helping people out and kind of what would work for them, for their content needs. And again, like you say, I thought about this the same with Fiverr, because Fiverr have just introduced this. I've seen it as well, where they're doing like these like $25 meetings, or I don't know if you can set your own price.
I don't know. I haven't looked too much into it, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. Like setting up a gig. The only thing, like you mentioned, I'll be wary about is the feedback they would leave after. Yeah. You know, because when you do copywriting or a spokesperson, you have a deliverable, which they've set their requirements. You know exactly what to deliver. But then on a meeting, yeah, it's a bit hit and miss. That's the only thing. And of course, you know, a few bad feedback on one gig, it's going to start to affect your whole profile as well. And
yeah, it's hard too, because we live in a world now where there's so many like gurus online who the idea of like a 1 hour consult, they've turned it into this like $5,000, you know, mastermind, this, that. And like the reality of like what I think we're talking about is it's like an hour of consulting, and like you get out of it what you're able to put in. Like if you're somebody who has absolutely no idea what you want to do, you haven't even thought about starting a business, it's going to be a discovery call, right? Where you're asking them a lot of questions to try to figure out what they're after. And they're going to feel like they don't have an outcome, because this is just a novice person who has no clue what they're doing, right? So the expectation versus the reality is a little skewed, but I mean, I do like the idea of like allocating like 2 to 3 hours a week to consulting. It's just, I'm going to wait and see how it works on Fiverr for now.
Yeah, sure thing. And what do you see? Like, obviously you've been on Fiverr a little bit longer than me. How have you seen this kind of, for example, what have you seen change on Fiverr? For me, I'm like always thinking, okay, this could end tomorrow. Like one, you could get kicked off the platform. Two, it could just, this niche could just decimate into nothing. Who knows? Or, you know, earnings could start to steadily go down with more people getting into it. Have you seen anything over the years of being on Fiverr, or have you seen your earnings consistently increase? Or
yeah, I mean, anything, like it's just a start, like anything could be gone tomorrow, right? Like gas stations could be gone tomorrow. I don't know, you know? So you just kind of got to roll with the punches. But for Fiverr, like I've noticed the biggest thing that's affected my earnings has been me ramping up or down pricing and stuff. But other than that, like macroeconomic stuff that's happening around the world, like what's going on in Russia or Ukraine or COVID or markets crap, whatever, right? Like that has been, to me, what I've noticed making things fluctuate. But like long term, if I look at earnings and month to month, there hasn't really been a massive change. And like, this is interesting that you asked, because like, for example, I talk a lot about copywriting on YouTube. I have a video that's got 1 million views. That's potentially hundreds of thousands of new people learning about copywriting and how to do it on Fiverr. I haven't noticed that the competition is increased to the point where it's like, oh my God, my business is in jeopardy. Because the reality is there's levels to this, right? And like there will always be a market for people who have experience and are providing real value. So I don't know. I mean, like it probably doesn't hurt to diversify where you're making money as a freelancer. Like I haven't really, like I've dabbled on other sites, but I just like.
Do you find Fiverr is your go-to freelancing platform?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've created accounts on like, I did a partnership with a site called Bribe Marketplace. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. I never stuck with it. Like, nothing to say poorly about these other platforms, like Upwork as well. Like, I'm not super big fan of how Upwork, like just the buyer seller culture on Upwork, I feel is really different. I'm not a fan. So I've just focused on Fiverr. Like, I obviously have my website and YouTube and Twitter and ways, and like I'm capable of finding business if Fiverr just disappeared tomorrow. But yeah, I'm pretty confident as a business. Like, I tune into all their earnings calls. Like, they seem to be doing the right things. Like, they bought a Super Bowl ad a couple years ago. Like, it's just they're growing. They're like, I'm not an analyst, but like they're spending a lot of money right now to grow, but they're also like their revenue is increasing quite a bit every year. So like I think that they are constantly tapping into new markets. And like you said, a lot of people don't even know about Fiverr. So I think that the total addressable market or runway for them as a platform is still pretty big, which means like at least for now, we as freelancers probably, have the bandwidth to go for a while.
Yeah, generally, like, I've always thought about the fact that, okay, I'm probably not going to be doing this until I'm like 60 years old, even though right now it's very lucrative and I hope it lasts for as long as possible. But how long? Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, like you say, like, it's, even though you did a video, millions of views, it's still not, there are some things on Fiverr which are extremely saturated, like logo designs, website development, super saturated. But generally, you still see, one of the biggest things I see is like people get onto Fiverr and they're like, okay, cool, I've started a Fiverr gig. That's it. Let's wait for customers, see what happens.
Exactly.
And this is like, they just sit there on page 20. And of course, nobody's going to find them. And this is, I think, the misconception so many people get is like, okay, yeah, I'll put my gig on there and I'll start getting paid. And it's not. You still have to put so much effort into it to grow.
Yeah, like Fiverr doesn't owe anyone anything. It's like if you start a coffee shop, just because you have coffee doesn't mean people are going to just stroll in and buy it. You have to sell it. But to your point, like, you're right. Like, I'm actually just going through the process right now of getting a logo created. And yeah, everyone talks about it's super saturated. I disagree. I think there's a lot of people doing it, but like I've always known this, but what I've noticed now that I'm hiring someone is, like you say, people just roll in and expect to make money. 90% or more of the logo designers on Fiverr probably use an app that designs generic logos, like an AI tool, and they're reselling that. A lot of them, the communication with the buyer before they purchase is very copy and paste. There's no value there. It's like I had to go through about 20 designers before anyone asked me what my business was. Everyone before that was, what do you want drawn? Okay, this, that, okay, give me $90. It's like, you don't even know what I want, right? So when it comes to competition, like even with something like logo design, which is super accessible because there's free tools available to do it, I would say the market that people should be aiming to compete in, where you can charge thousands of dollars for a logo, which companies will pay for because you're going through discovery and mock-ups and all that. That's not saturated at all, right? There's probably 1,000 people maybe globally, right?
I agree. To provide that kind of level of service, 100%.
Yeah.
Like you say, the majority is like, what do you want? Like, what I want is creativity from your side. I have no idea what I want.
Exactly.
But talking about logos, a top tip for you, just in case you haven't already got it, freelancer.com.
Oh, I already paid for it. I'm like in second revision now, but
literally anytime I need a logo, you go to freelancer.com and you can run a contest.
Oh, really?
For example, I did one quite recently for a friend. I think the amount we put was $50. We did like a 3-day contest. We got over 500 entries. So they're literally like putting in their entries of the design of the logo.
Wow.
You just give them some specifications and then you pick a winner at the end.
That's pretty cool. That's interesting. I've actually never knew that was a thing. That's pretty cool.
But for logos, it's amazing. And they do other stuff as well, like any kind of graphic design stuff. You can run contests, but it's a pretty cool website for that.
Cool.
But then, so in regards to have you had any negative experiences with Fiverr? Or anything that you would say, okay, this is what I dislike about the
I mean, from a buyer perspective, like I've probably done like almost 1,000 orders over the last 4 years. I've probably had 10 people who were just shitty people, like really just unethical. The type of person, like I probably want to punch them in the face if I met them in person. Like I've done it, and this was, most of them were early on when I didn't have experience on how to set proper expectations. But you know, people where you complete the work and they're just messing with you, trying to get a refund, stuff like that type of stuff doesn't really happen anymore with me, because I just don't put up with it. Like back in the day, I thought you always had, I was so worried about, you know, the 1 in 1,000 that were, you know, total assholes. But, and sorry about my language, you could bleep it out. But that was the biggest negative for me early on. Like one of my like first orders when I was working for like $5 for an email was some like magical healer type person, like really out there stuff, who wanted me to write a prospecting email for a business that's just like, what, like me personally, I think is totally bananas. They had no value proposition. So I was trying to work with them, and they just were so like, I don't know, on DMT or wherever they were, whatever planet they were on, they couldn't connect with me on it. That was a terrible experience. But other than that, I mean, Fiverr takes a pretty large cut, which I think is a positive thing because of how great the platform is and how much traffic you get.
Yeah.
I don't like that buyers, and this applies to the very small percentage of unsavory people on the platform, can just constantly request revisions forever after you've delivered work. And Fiverr doesn't really intervene. So like the only way that I've been able to resolve those types of situations, I don't know, paint a picture for you. I have a gig that I offer a service. I'm very clear in what's included, and I'm very clear that there's a limited number of revisions allowed.
Yep.
I'll deliver it, do a revision, and if they keep doing that, I just keep copying and pasting like the fact that like this is what you paid for. And I've had one where it's ridiculous. It's like for a $400 order. Like it's not going to end my life, but it's a lot of money. We went back probably 30 times where they're like, not happy. You're a terrible person. I hate you. They were just keeping on doing that. It took me 3 weeks before they just gave up. But like Fiverr wouldn't intervene. Like they're like, oh, you have to make it happy with them. But I'm like, hey, you know, if you guys have someone who has, you know, common sense and, you know, will uphold your terms, I've delivered what I delivered. They don't really get involved, which kind of sucks. But at the same time, I also get it because they're not involved in the transaction. So they don't know what was promised, whether I emailed them or they reached me off the platform. And it's very diluted, like what's been said and what's been delivered. So I get it. But other than stuff like that, which mostly revolves around, you know, inexperienced buyers, it's been kind of a breeze, man. Like the platform is easy to use, it's easy to create a gig, you know.
Yeah, generally, I would completely agree with you. I've only had maybe 3 or 4 situations like that, and I think I did like a YouTube video mentioning this. One of my biggest was, it was like $1,800, and it was basically, it was this guy. He wanted like a video sales letter, pretty much just copying another video, but I had to, you know, reword it all, then create the presentation and all of that. So okay, did it, no problem. And to be honest, now looking back at it, I could see he was a little bit sketchy to start with. Like he was willing to just hand over $1,800 without even really putting a lot of input in. He was like, yeah, sure, no problem. It's like, okay. And delivered it. And he then put it back in revision. He just wanted a couple of small things changing on the edit. I was like, okay, put it back in, delivered it. And he comes back to cancel it. He was like, no, it's still not what I was looking for. And it's like, okay, like, how is that possible when you've asked for a revision on one small thing? And this went back and forth for about 2 weeks. And yet again, got Fiverr involved. But Fiverr is like, it's annoying because you would like them to see the kind of requirements, the conversation, which I'm pretty sure they look at, but it's like they can't automatically approve the order, because otherwise that'd be stealing technically from the client.
Yeah.
But in the end, like about a week later, I even saw on the guy's website that he's using my video already. And while this is still sitting in like revision, so I send this to Fiverr and like the website and everything, and they come back to me and they say, sorry, we can't look at third-party platforms.
Yeah.
It's like, it's unreal.
Yeah. So I get it though. Like, because you got to think like they're a one-to-many business, right? Like they're a platform with millions of users, right? Like imagine they investigated everything. They would need like hundreds of thousands of employees, right?
Yeah, of course. But generally, I have to say one good thing about them, and I've had this now in a couple of situations where it gets to that point where it's like, okay, Fiverr can't do anything, so all they can really do is cancel the job. And of course, the client gets free work, but they're like, we will compensate you. So, for example,
Fiverr will.
Yeah, Fiverr's compensating.
I've never had that happen.
So yeah, literally that one, they didn't compensate me the whole 1,800, but they compensated me 900.
Okay, half. They met you halfway.
Exactly. And the other one, I think they compensate me like, I don't know, $80 or $100, something like that.
Okay, that's I actually never gotten to that point. It's either been like for really small ones, I'm just like, screw it, it's $20. Early on, cancel, and then I'll ask Fiverr, like, listen, if they leave a bad review or if this cancellation is going to affect me, do whatever you have to do because this is not my fault. And they've said like, yeah, I don't know whether they did anything, but it didn't affect my gigs. And then the other times, the buyer would just give up their pursuit of free work, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's cool to know. That's a pretty good sign of good faith. Yeah,
generally, as long as you've met the requirements and they can kind of see that the buyer is being a bit of a dick, then they're like, okay, no, we see that you've done the work, you couldn't do anything more, and so they're pretty good like that. They have done that a couple of times, but also, obviously, you're providing a copywriting gig. Now, when, for example, you deliver logos or photos via Fiverr, the watermark is all over the picture. On videos, this is one of the biggest things that they need to change because it would help a lot. On videos, all it has is a small Fiverr logo up in the corner.
Oh, that you can edit out?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what about on copywriting?
Yeah, so I mean, as soon as you deliver something like a piece of text, they could just copy and paste it wherever they want. So that's where I build my requirements I'm very firm. Like even in like my pre-order chats, I'll be like, listen, if I sense that someone's a little fishy, I'll say, listen, if you're going to hire me, here's my process. You give me your requirements. Whatever I deliver to you, unless of course I've totally spaced and written about a different business, we need to both agree that it's not a matter of debate here. Like if you were capable of doing this yourself, you should do it. Otherwise, that's kind of, it sounds like I'm being a dick, but the reality is like, I tell them this. I'm like, if you want to hire me and I deliver something that I think will work based on my experience, and you make me revise it to something completely different, now you're just having me speak your words, which, obviously they're not working for you. Otherwise you wouldn't be hiring me. So that's how I try to avoid that situation. It sounds bad, but it's true. It's like you're hiring someone who's sold, enterprise sales in tech for years. I've been in tech sales for 10 years. I've been copywriting for years. If you haven't, we need to both agree that I'm the expert and you're not. And if you can't agree on that after I deliver it, I'm not the guy for you. So that's phase one. Phase two is like one revision per order. And then I clearly state that it's like, for an email, as an example, a revision, like quote unquote revision, would be one line of text, like one sentence, one subject line. None of this, because you sometimes get revision requests like, oh, I'm not happy about the tone, change it. It's like, no, you have to tell me what to change.
Yeah.
So I do that. And I mean, I guess I'm decent at what I do because I don't get a lot of people who like try to steal the work. They're usually pretty happy with it. But I do that just to make sure that the expectations are set and I don't get into a sticky situation. Although, like I said, it has happened like 10 times over the last however many years.
Okay, cool. And okay, so just finishing up on the whole Fiverr situation,
Mhm.
for people listening right now, what kind of Fiverr gigs for complete newbies who just want to start freelancing and making money? If you could pick maybe 2 or 3 Fiverr gigs, what would you recommend people with virtually no experience, but maybe that has an easy learning curve? What would you recommend people get into?
So before I give you any, the first thing I'll say is people watching this, looking for a gig to get into, I think the whole no experience thing should be viewed as a marker that step one is you need to start trying stuff and getting experience, because regardless what's easy to get into, if you just absolutely hate doing it, doesn't matter, right? With that being said, if you try these things out and you find you enjoy it and you can start a serious business around this, I think obviously copywriting is what I do. I think it's fantastic. I think with everything that's happening in the world right now with layoffs, especially in big tech, virtual assistant type services, but more so like contract sales employee type services where you've identified a company's laid off 1,000 salespeople, you have some sales experience or you're getting into sales, learning how to do it. You offer to be like a cold caller or someone who prospects and does email marketing, like kind of like a managed service. I think it's a little bit more difficult to sell because you have to set expectations, what's included and what you'll do. But I think that's a very lucrative thing because to hire a sales rep, they have to pay benefits, they have to pay salary, they have to train you, they have to provide a laptop, a desk, space in an office. It's expensive.
Yeah.
You could potentially make a lot more money for yourself doing it through a site like Fiverr or freelance by, maximizing what you charge and selling it to them in a way where you're like, hey, I'm charging you this, but you're saving on this, this, and this. And especially if you start getting results and there's commission too, that's great. So copywriting, some sort of like managed sales or virtual employee type gig is, I think, pretty good. And then I think a big one, and this goes into the category of what people think is saturated, is video editing, specifically for sites like YouTube and TikTok. Yeah. But what I'll say is, like, I get probably 100 to 200 emails a month of people like, oh, I'll edit your videos, I'll make them better. You need to first get to a point where you can prove to the person you're targeting that you are an easy person to work with. Like, I hire you, I send you files. Without telling you anything, you'll get 90% of the way there on the first edit. And that comes from practice and targeting a niche. Like, pick a type of content on YouTube, whether it's personal finance or how to make money online or ASMR videos, whatever it is, and make a portfolio of like hundreds of edits of just you making that type of video and be like, hey, if these fit your style, we should chat. I'd love to work with you. Let's figure out a way. I think that's very lucrative, but only if you can sell yourself in a way where you are the easy choice. Because like I just said, I get hundreds of messages from people who have downloaded DaVinci Resolve and have like a 5 out of 10 ability. And it's just a waste of time at that point, because the amount of time I would have to spend training them to edit in my style, I should be charging them for that time. You know what I mean? So those are the three, I think: copywriting, some sort of virtual sales assistant, and then video editing for social media.
Yeah, it's a good point. With the video editing, even when I went to find my editor to start working with an editor, mainly for Fiverr, again, I tried out, I think, 3 or 4 different people, gave them exactly the same, like 1 or 2 minute video, told them to edit it, and then kind of just like, withers it down into the best ones. Mm-hmm. But even I had a guy, to be honest, like a couple of days ago, messaged me on Fiverr saying, oh, here, edit my videos for me. I was like, okay, send me a sample of your work, yeah? Because this is the biggest thing. They don't have decent portfolios. He sent me a sample. It was a hyperlapse inside a car, literally inside a car on a passenger seat. All it was a hyperlapse of him going from one place to another. I was like, dude, it's a hyperlapse. I could do that on my phone. Like, what's going on? Like, and it's just like, I don't know what they're thinking. Like,
there's they don't, like, people who position themselves like that. And I try to talk about this, but it's an abstract topic for people who've never done this before, is they don't understand value, the concept of value. Like, if it's harder for me to work with you than without you, there's no value there,
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and last one, very quick. A couple of bits of advice you would give somebody to start in on Fiverr, or even starting a freelancing journey, what kind of advice would you give?
Yeah, I think you touched on this one earlier, but you know, the having the right mindset, like the whole idea of saying, "Oh, I'm going to do freelance this." You create a profile and you just wait for stuff to happen. You're going to fail. Like this isn't a get rich quick thing. Fiverr or any freelance platform is not like this like scheme where it's just going to generate money for you. It's just a tool to work into a business, really. So have the right expectation about that. The other thing is kind of a broader piece of advice, and it goes back to that topic of value, is you should feel you are very good at whatever it is you're trying to sell. And you should also feel that you've put in the time to understand the types of businesses you want to work with before you try to work with them, so that at the very least you can speak the same language about what they might want. A lot of people will fall into this kind of cycle where they say, "Oh, I'm an amazing YouTube Shorts editor." And they might be an amazing YouTube Shorts editor, but they've detached themselves from the part of, I need to actually be able to work with YouTubers. So they don't think about what's important to a YouTuber. What do they want to achieve with hiring an editor? What are the pain points they have with editing themselves? You can't just have the skill and not have the understanding of why people want the skill. So you have to look at it more like a business, and more like you're not just trying to extract money from someone and run away with it and haha, like this took me 2 minutes. More like, I need to show them I can help. Hopefully, if I do a great job, they'll continue to work with me. And that's all based on the fact that you are offering some sort of value, both in the skills you're offering and in the effort you've put into understanding their business. So I don't know if that's clear or ambiguous, but
yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's that situation that freelancing ends up, like, even for me, to be honest, freelancing ends up being more of a full-time job than a normal full-time job. I wake up in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock, because during the night, obviously, because in the US and European time zone, completely different. During the night, I get tons of messages through Fiverr. Yep. So I'm like, okay, 2 o'clock. I normally, if I wake up, I check my phone, and I'm replying to them while I'm still half asleep. Even if it's just something like, "Oh, hey, thanks for reaching out. I'll get back to you in a couple of hours." Just something simple, rather than them going and speak to somebody else who is online. So it is that thing where you have to be pretty much available 24/7, plus the value. Like, value you have to deliver as a freelancer, I would say, is higher than that of a big company would give. It's
because you're the guy, right? Like, you have to guide them if they have no clue.
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, moving on to YouTube. So obviously this is interesting, and this is also interesting for me because I've just finally started the YouTube channel like a couple of months ago, and I should have started this during the whole COVID situation. I really should have. But it's tough, man. It's like I don't know how you manage to put out so much content. Like, I've been going pretty consistently now for almost a month. It is hard. It is tough, man. Finding the topics, scripting, thinking about what camera angles, etc., or how you want to do the edit. It's so tough. But what made you get started on YouTube?
Yeah. So kind of a similar feeling to why I wanted to start making money off writing in general. I just like the idea of being able to create stuff that could potentially make me money, over time, something that I would enjoy doing. I don't ever want to be like a celebrity, but I like the idea of building a loyal audience where you guys are all kind of interested in the same things. You connect with them. It's kind of like a fun thing. So, the whole YouTube thing for Fiverr kind of happened by chance. Like, I had tried running a whole bunch of different blogs in the past. Like, that was my first attempt of like an online presence. Like, I had one called The Big Lewandowski. It was like a soccer blog about it was like a play on like the Big Lebowski and Robert Lewandowski. I thought it was a cool name. I had like a car website. I used to play poker. So I had like a poker training site, and they were just like all stuff that once I got into them, I realized doing the work to do the blog made me start to hate the thing that I loved. And YouTube was like the perfect blend. Like it was teaching me how to be a video editor, how to present on camera. I was talking about something I'm passionate about, which is, you know, freelancing and making money online. And I eventually just like you probably did a month ago, just said, you know, screw it. I got to do it. I'm just going to pull the trigger. And like my first videos, like my first 100 videos are probably shit. Like your videos look great. Like you have the lighting. I don't know if that's a green screen behind you, but like,
yeah, so exactly. But the only reason for that is because I've already been doing spokesperson stuff for like 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's
is that a green screen?
This isn't, but I've got one up here along the ceiling.
Okay, yeah. That looks great. Like, you know, like my first videos was terrible.
Literally, this whole situation right here. So this is actually my partner's apartment, but obviously we live in my apartment, but she's got this place. So I was like, after Christmas, I was like, how about I turn your place into a studio and I can stop working from home?
Yeah.
So yeah, literally kitted this out, like the whole kind of studio space. I've got like sound panels on the ceiling. It cost way too much money for what I was expecting it to cost, but we got there, and it's pretty cool. It's not bad, actually.
Yeah. So like I'm like put it this way, like you ask how do I spit out so much content? Like this is now my setup. I'm in the corner of my office. The rest is a disaster. This looks okay. And like I have sound panels that I bought. I haven't stuck them up yet. Like it's just one of the ways I'm able to pump out a lot of content is my recording studio is pretty much ready to go. My camera's always on my desk. I got my tripod, lights, and I just turn it on. I'm always writing scripts, you know, like, so I have like 5 ready to record at any time.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Seriously. It's that's the script writing is the one thing I have to be really in the mood, you know, like it has to be really, okay, yeah, I'm ready to go. Sometimes I'm like, no, I can't do this. But it's not bad. I don't mind it. And like I say, like the last month, I've been trying to be pretty consistent. But yeah, always just the scripting slows me down, I would say.
How many videos are you putting out?
So my aim at the moment is 2 long form videos a week.
Wow.
Plus, I was trying to do 2 shorts per day.
Wow.
So 2 shorts per day over 6 days. So yeah, like 12 shorts.
Yeah.
But obviously last week I've kind of fell behind for the whole short situation. Just because I want to aim to kind of grow pretty much as quick as possible. You know, like everybody's different, I know. And so it's just about trying to see how fast I can physically grow. So it's like, okay, if I try to be consistent, which is one of my biggest like downfalls is consistency. I'm terrible at it. But if I try, then maybe we will finally achieve something. But how was your beginning on Fiverr? Like, how did you
on Fiverr or YouTube?
Sorry, YouTube. Yes.
So it was very kind of sporadic. Like I was aiming to do at first as many videos as I could, similar to what you're doing. So like some weeks I'd have 1, some I'd have 3. Then I'd go like a week where I was busy, and then the next week I'd have 2. So it was kind of all over the place. I was trying to get as much out as possible, as quickly as possible. I started to struggle with that because I would have like 1 week where I could record like crazy. I'd record all these videos, publish them in a short period of time. Then I'd be left kind of with nothing. So then I switched to doing 1 a week. Went up to 2 a week. At my peak, I was doing, excuse me, before shorts came out, 3 full-length videos a week, which was way too much for me at the time. And now I'm down to 2, and it's kind of, sometimes it's 2 full-length, sometimes it's 2 shorts, sometimes it's one or the other. I don't really think too much about that. I'm more so now focused on, you know, every week I want a topic that's interesting, that I think is good, or like, for example, a month ago or 2 months ago, ChatGPT was really trending. I found a couple topics I could do that incorporated kind of ChatGPT with Fiverr, and I prioritized those and kind of pushed my other videos further down the line. Yeah, so it's kind of been like an evolving thing. But for me, it's not even like putting out a lot of content is obviously good. But for me, being consistent, which I know you say you struggle with, is more important for me. And that worked for me really well. And it kind of probably had me growing slower than you might, in the early days because my quality of edits took a long time to get decent. But, you know, everyone's different and you do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like, because are you editing all your own videos now yourself?
Always. Yeah.
Okay. So exactly. I'm outsourcing that to my editor. Just because I know he can do a better job, and then I can focus on scripting and recording. But yeah, like you say, like there is the option of, okay, pumping out videos and quantity, or there's a whole quality situation. And that's exactly it. Like the amount of time I put into the scripting, it's kind of like, I don't just want to, you know, record some shitty video and then upload it just to then for it to sit there and possibly die, you know?
Well, that's going to happen even if you think you're recording. I have so many videos that I think are fantastic, and for whatever reason, the audience, the algorithm doesn't work out and they just die right away, but it's part of it.
Man. But okay, so how do you stay so consistent with YouTube at the moment? Because I would say, like, I've been following you now for probably around, I would say probably at least 6 months, I would say. I've known about you. And your consistency with YouTube it's insane. And now finding out today that you literally had a full-time job as well. Mate, I have no idea how you did it. No idea.
I'll be honest, I love YouTube. Like it's something I'm very passionate about now. Like the whole idea that you can, you know, build this like mini audience for yourself and it pays the bills and people find it helpful. It might sound bad, but I am a little obsessed with it. Like you mentioned being on your phone 2 a.m. responding to Fiverr. It's like first thing I do when I wake up is see how my video from yesterday performed or how many comments I got and responding to them all. Like I respond to every comment too. So I just love it. Like seeing it grow, seeing, you know, what it's become. Like this was like the biggest accomplishment I've had in my life, like getting 100,000 subs.
You've already got the plaque as well?
Yeah, it's right there.
That's pretty fast, yeah? Because you only crossed 100,000, what, at Christmas time?
Yeah, it took 3 weeks for them to ship it. Yeah. But yeah, it's just a remarkable thing. And like, for me, it's something I'm so into. Like I've started a second channel and I want to grow that one. The idea that you can go from like me, some guy in my Toronto apartment at the time when I started with like I had like a shotgun mic taped to my desk. I didn't like understand like how to use everything. It's cool. Like now I'm like getting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views every month. And I get emails of people who are like, one of the most remarkable things that's kind of hooked me early is a guy that followed me from Malaysia. He's 15 and he's like, dude, I watched your videos. I kind of got into copywriting. I'm not great, but I've gotten to the point where I'm making $500 per month. And now like my family, which is like, they were like, oh, he has 4 or 5 kids and his 2 parents, they all live together, is at like a different level of like comfort financially because he's the big earner now. And I was like, holy crap, that's crazy. And also like kind of like super rewarding for me selfishly because I was like, wow, like this video I recorded over like a 2-hour period helped this guy and his family. That's so cool. So yeah, that's how I stay consistent. I'm obsessed with that. I think it's the coolest thing to be able to create videos, which I find cool, the process in general, but that you can touch this huge audience, right?
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. Like, and this is just going back to freelancing real quick. This is seriously how freelancing can change your life. Even for this guy, okay, $500 a month isn't a great deal, but for him in that country, it's, you know, completely changed his life. But even for me, like the kind of lifestyle we're able to live now through Fiverr is immense compared to what I had a couple of years ago. Yeah. It's completely different levels. But so you started YouTube, and then do you remember roughly how long it took you to, for example, reach, I don't know, 1,000 subscribers?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It took about 7 months.
Okay.
So this is interesting. So I always remember this. It took about 7 months to get to 1,000. And then from 1,000 to 2,000 was like in a month or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hear this
pretty
time,
cool. Yeah. And now I'm getting like at least 1,000 a week, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think this is the thing with YouTube. Like it's that sticking it out for, you know, 6 months, 1 year at the start. But then once you do get into the, 1,000 numbers, then of course the growth, if you're still consistent, the growth should hopefully be there.
It could be. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, I'm so happy I stuck with it, because like for that first year, like people are seeing you recording. I have all this stuff in my office. People, like, funny enough, friends and family are like the most critical about this type of a thing, because it's kind of taboo. Like, it's not a real job, whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of people quit because they're like, oh, I put out these 3 amazing videos. Like, why didn't they pick up? But it could take a year, could take 6. Like, I think that guy, Mr. Beast, in an interview said he had to post like 2,000 videos before he hit 1,000 subs. Yeah. I posted like 50. Luckily, my topic was a little bit more targeted than like what he was figuring out at the time. But yeah, it could take however long it takes. Like, I know some channels get to 1,000 in a month. Some don't, right? It all depends. Like, at my second channel, it's about like photography, creative entrepreneurship, YouTube. I've probably posted 30 videos on there, and I'm still only at like 370 or 350 subscribers. It just, you kind of have to find your footing too, right? Like, I figured out the Fiverr and the copywriting and the freelancing type of content, but for like the creative type of content about like how to do photography or record videos or do YouTube, I'm still figuring out the niche, and it could take me however long it takes me, right? But now I know that it's possible with my main channel, so I'm going to stick with it with my second channel.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely possible, I think, but it's just that sticking with it. And this is where nowadays people want something to happen tomorrow, like that waiting around for something. And this is the thing with YouTube, and this is why I've kind of started it as well. It's more for, like future proofing as well, in a way, because again, it's like an investment, and it's like, okay, you put in, for example, a year's worth of work here and you continue to do it. But as you've probably seen, you're probably getting paid from videos still that you did like 6 months ago.
Yeah. It's crazy. So, it's absolutely crazy. Yeah.
So when it works out like that, it's absolutely mental. And when did you see, talking about kind of money, but we won't go into great detail, have you done sponsorships on your channel? I'm assuming so.
Yep.
When did you see your first sponsorship? Like, at what kind of stage were you? Like, how many subscribers?
I think like 20,000 or like 15, 20,000. It was small. Okay. I think it was $500. I forget. I never disclosed like the details of the sponsorship, but like at the time, one of my early ones, it was just like a small business, online business, $500 for like a 60-second insertion. Okay. It depends, right? Like, you get a lot of companies that try to really beat down influencers on pricing. But for me, similar to how I handle my Fiverr business, like, my rates are my rates. I'm not that easy to bend on them. And now, like, at 100,000 plus, I get an email a day, at least, from companies. Most of them are crap, but I kind of vet them all.
Yeah. And are you ever going to do the typical YouTuber thing of like my earnings for the year?
Yeah. I'm totally transparent. Like, last year, I think I did like 40,000 of AdSense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a full-time job, like, generally, it's unreal. And then last question about YouTube. If you started a second channel, and obviously that's kind of relatively new, but from your experience from your biggest channel right now, your main channel, is there anything that you would do differently to grow faster?
Like, obviously knowing how to edit and stuff has helped me a lot. And also like understanding retention has helped me a lot. But I think kind of sticking with like a topic and really trying to really hammer that topic until you know whether it's something you want to do or will work is pretty big. So like my second channel, I try to go one topic and then branch out to some subtopics. So the overreaching topic is creative entrepreneurship. Then there's YouTube, photography, and stuff like that. Yeah. Early on, I had a short about how to do YouTube pop-offs. I'm like, oh, maybe this channel should lean more towards YouTube. Then I did a video on comparing a couple different types of camera specs. That took off. So like, I'm kind of still playing around with it, but I'm going to stick with that topic until I kind of have an understanding. Like with my main channel now, it was about Fiverr, but my copywriting videos drive the bulk of my traffic. Fiverr's number 2, and then general kind of make money online is number 3. So I kind of figured that out over the period of a couple of years, really focusing on the value I want to provide.
Okay, nice. And last question before we wrap up. What is in the future for Mike? What is, obviously you're a guy with, like, you just can't sit still by the sounds of it. You've got a few different things going on. But what's in the future for you? What are you planning? What's looking, well, what's going to happen in 2023?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I'm sticking with YouTube and Fiverr. Like, I think those are great ways to kind of be active in making money online. But I'm actually working on like a workbook type of thing where, you know, I mentioned one of my biggest videos is a copywriting course for beginners. Part of that course are like different writing exercises. So I'm going to try to put together a little bit of a physical book where people have access to more exercises. That'll probably be the first thing I actually sell, like for a fee. So that will be hopefully this year. Other than that, I'm taking photography more seriously. I've been doing free photo shoots around the GTA just to learn that skill as well. And really hoping to kind of make it like a little trifecta. Like, I make money copywriting, YouTube, taking photos, and see where that goes.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Not a huge plan, but yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, but generally I think the more kind of spontaneous you are, generally plans just end up falling in your lap and something that you don't even expect. Yeah. So, okay, nice, man. All right. Well, I'm not going to take up any more of your time because we've already been going for like an hour.
Yeah, it was great.
Generally, man, I think it's honestly, I've learned a lot. So I hope anybody watching also learns a lot if they make it right through the hour. But honestly, it's been great. It's been great meeting you. And yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to see what you do with the channel, and maybe we'll do another one of these sometime.
Yeah. Awesome. Fantastic.
All
right. Thanks a bunch.
Peace.
And there we have it. Mike Nardi, copywriting freelancer, YouTuber, and as of a couple of weeks ago, full-time employee. Now, like I said at the start of the video, if you enjoyed this style, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and drop a comment down below. If enough of you do so, then we can definitely make these interviews into a regular thing. Otherwise, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.